The council chamber was the largest room Jake Morrison had ever seen. It floated in space above a planet called Axios Prime, and through the clear walls, he could see stars in every direction. 47 different alien races sat in curved rows around the center floor. Some looked like insects, others glowed with strange light. A few were so different that Jake could barely understand what he was looking at. Jake stood in the center of the room. He wore his best uniform, dark blue with gold buttons. Next to him stood Kate Sullivan, a young officer who had helped him prepare for this moment. They had traveled 3 months to get here. Earth had waited 20 years for this chance. "Ambassador Morrison," said a voice that sounded like music and breaking glass mixed together. "You may begin your presentation." The voice came from Zephon, the leader of the council. He was made of living crystal that changed colors when he spoke. His people, the Luminari, were the oldest race in the galaxy. They had built the council 5,000 years ago. Jake took a deep breath. "Thank you, council leader. I come today to ask that Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Council. We have completed our 20-year probationary period. We have followed all council laws. We have traded fairly with all nations. We believe we are ready to join you as equals." He pressed a button on his tablet. Images appeared in the air above him. Pictures of Earth, green and blue and beautiful. Pictures of human colonies on Mars and Europa. Pictures of the 300 ships in Earth's fleet. "Humanity has much to offer," Jake continued. "Our medical research has cured 17 diseases that affect multiple species. Our engineers have designed new fusion reactors that are more efficient than previous models. Our artists and musicians have—" A loud buzzing sound interrupted him. It came from the Vrex section. The Vrex looked like giant mantises, each one 10 feet tall with sharp edges on their arms. Their representative, Thrak, stood up. His translator made his voice sound harsh and angry. "Medical research? Art?" Thrak clicked his mandibles together in what Jake had learned was a Vrex laugh. "Council leader, why are we wasting time with this? Look at their military presentation. 300 ships? We have 30,000 in our empire alone." Other voices joined in. A delegate from the Kelthian Dominion stood. The Kelthians looked like humans, but with blue skin and 3 eyes. "I must agree with the Vrex representative. Earth's defensive capabilities are laughable. Their largest warship carries only 500 crew members. Our smallest carrier holds 3,000. Jake felt his face grow hot, but he kept his expression calm. Kate touched his arm gently, a reminder to stay professional. He had known this would be difficult. "The size of our military is not," Jake started to say. "Not important?" another delegate interrupted. This one was from the Dravix Collective, a race that looked like living shadows. "Ambassador, military strength is everything in the galaxy. How can you protect council interests if you cannot protect yourselves?" Zephon's crystals flashed orange, calling for quiet. But when the chamber settled down, his next words were not supportive. "Ambassador Morrison, the delegate raises a fair question. Can you explain why humanity maintains such a small defensive force? Your population is 8 billion across 5 worlds, yet your standing military numbers only 3 million soldiers. This is concerning." Jake looked up at the council members. Most of them were staring at him with what he could only describe as pity. Some looked amused. A few seemed actively hostile. "Our military is sufficient for our needs," Jake said carefully. "We have never been invaded. We have never failed to protect our people or our allies. We maintain peaceful relations with all our neighbors." "Because you have no neighbors worth fearing," shouted a delegate from somewhere in the back rows. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Thrak clicked his mandibles again. "Let me show you something, human." He activated his own display. Images appeared showing Vrex military academies, training grounds, fleet formations. "This is what a real military looks like. We have been training warriors for 3,000 years. Every Vrex citizen serves 10 years in our armed forces. We have fortresses on 100 worlds. And yet we still fear there are threats in the darkness beyond council space. How can your tiny force possibly contribute to galactic security?" More voices added their concerns. A small, furry delegate from the Paxian Union said, "Our species is peaceful by nature. But even we maintain a fleet of 2,000 ships. How can we trust Earth to defend us if needed? An older delegate from the Orion Alliance spoke in a quieter voice, but his words stung worse. Perhaps humanity is not ready for full membership. Perhaps another 20 years of probation would give them time to build proper defenses. Kate leaned close to Jake. "Do you want me to show them the classified files?" she whispered. "The real numbers?" Jake shook his head slightly. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That was not a decision he could make alone, and certainly not in anger. "Council members," Jake said loudly, waiting for quiet. "I understand your concerns. I know that by your standards, Earth's military appears small. But I ask you to consider this. In the 20 years since we joined the Council as probationary members, how many times has Earth requested military assistance?" Silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Zephon spoke. "Never. Earth has never requested aid." "And how many times have we failed to meet our obligations to defend Council interests in our sector?" "Never," Zephon admitted. "But your sector is quiet. There are no major threats near Earth." "Exactly," said a new voice. Jake turned to see a delegate from the Korthax Republic standing. The Korthax looked like six-legged lizards. Earth got lucky. They evolved in a safe neighborhood. They have no idea what real danger looks like. What happens when something threatens them? They will panic and call for help. And who will save them? We will. Why should they get full voting rights when they contribute nothing to the Council's defense? The vote happened quickly after that. 41 delegates voted against Earth's membership. Only 6 voted in favor. Those 6 were small, peaceful civilizations that Earth had helped with trade deals and medical aid over the years. The major powers all voted numbered Zephon's crystals, turned dark blue, which Jake had learned meant sadness or sympathy. "Ambassador Morrison, the Council has voted to deny Earth's application. You will remain in probationary status. We will review your application again in 10 years. Perhaps by then, humanity will have developed more robust defensive capabilities." This session is concluded. Jake bowed his head slightly, showing respect even in defeat. "Thank you for your consideration, Council Leader. Earth will continue to serve the Council faithfully." He and Kate walked toward the exit. The chamber was already emptying, delegates talking among themselves. Jake heard snippets of conversation as they passed. "Embarrassing, really. Did you see how small their flagship is? Toy soldiers playing at being a real military. 20 more years and maybe they will learn." Thrax's voice boomed out, not even trying to be quiet. "Perhaps humans should focus on making art and music. Leave the real work of protecting the galaxy to those of us who understand strength." More laughter followed them out of the chamber. Kate's jaw was clenched tight. Her hands were fists at her sides. "Sir, they had no right to humiliate us like that." "They had every right," Jake said quietly as they entered the corridor. "We asked to join their club. They said no. That is their choice." "But they don't know," Kate started. "No, they don't," Jake agreed. "And that is exactly how Earth wants it." They walked in silence back to the human embassy. It was a small building compared to the massive structures that housed the Virax and Kelthian delegations. Only 15 humans worked there, mostly civilian, staff managing trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Ryan Park, one of the civilian technicians, met them in the lobby. "I watched the session," he said. "I'm sorry, Ambassador, that was hard to watch." "It was harder to experience," Kate muttered. Jake managed a smile. "We knew this might happen. Send a full report to Earth. Tell them the Council denied our application. Include all the reasons they gave." "Should I mention the mocking?" Ryan asked carefully. "Include everything," Jake said. "They deserve to know exactly what was said." That night, Jake sat alone in his quarters looking out at the stars. He wrote his personal report to the Secretary of Defense, a woman named Helen Kim, who was one of only 50 people on Earth who knew the truth. "The Council believes we are weak," he wrote. "They believe our military is inadequate. They laughed at our fleet size and mocked our army. They see us as naive children playing at being a civilization. I maintained protocol and revealed nothing. But I must tell you, Helen, it was difficult. These people have no idea what they are protected by. They sleep safely in their beds and mock the guardians they cannot see. He paused, then added, "Perhaps it is time they learned. Not everything. Just enough to understand that humanity's definition of strength is not the same as theirs. I await your decision." Jake sent the message encoded on a quantum channel that even the luminary could not intercept. Then he went to bed, wondering what tomorrow would bring. In the lower levels of the embassy, in a room that did not appear on any official floor plan, 3 human soldiers sat at monitoring stations. They wore no uniforms. Their equipment looked like standard communication. General Krath woke to the sound of alarms. The Vrek's military commander jumped from his sleeping platform and grabbed his communication device. Red emergency lights flashed throughout his quarters. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Sir, you need to come to command center immediately," his aide replied. The young Vrek sounded frightened. That was unusual. Vrek soldiers were trained from childhood not to show fear. Krath rushed through the corridors of the military complex. Other officers were running too, all heading toward the central command room. When he arrived, he found chaos. Screens displayed error messages. Officers were shouting into communication devices. His second-in-command, a veteran warrior named Sekthar, turned to him with wide eyes. "Sir, they are gone." "Who is gone?" Krath demanded. "The humans. All of them. Every single human in Vrek's territory has disappeared." Krath stared at him. "Explain, now." Sekthar brought up a map on the main screen. Red markers showed human locations throughout the Vrek's empire, or rather showed where humans had been. "At 600 hours this morning, we conducted our standard communication check with all allied forces in our territory." The human embassy did not respond. "We sent a security team. The building is empty. All 73 humans who worked there are gone." "They evacuated?" "Why were we not informed?" "No, sir, you don't understand. They did not evacuate. There is no record of any ships leaving. No transport was requested. Security cameras show the humans were there at midnight. At 001 hours, the cameras show empty rooms. No movement. No departure. They simply vanished." Krath felt a cold sensation in his stomach. The Vreks did not believe in magic or supernatural events. Everything had a logical explanation. "Check the cameras for malfunctions." "We did, sir. Cameras are functioning perfectly. We have also checked every human location in our empire. The joint training facility on Vrex Prime empty. All 42 human liaison officers disappeared. The human cruiser that was docked at our repair station, its entire crew of 800 gone. The ship is still there. Their belongings are still in their quarters. Half-eaten meals are still on plates in the dining hall. But no humans." Krath sat down heavily. "This is impossible." "Yes, sir, but it has happened." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out in dozens of locations. On Kelthian Station 7, Commander Sileth walked through the human cruiser Resolute with growing confusion. The ship was intact. All systems were operational. The crew's personal items were exactly where they should be. In the medical bay, a half-finished cup of coffee sat next to a computer terminal that was still logged in. But there were no people. "Run a full bioscan of the ship," Sileth ordered. "Look for any trace of human DNA." Her technician worked the controls. "Commander, I'm detecting human DNA everywhere. Hair, skin cells, fingerprints. But they are all old traces. Nothing fresh. No sign of living humans. Gunn, how is that possible? These people were here 12 hours ago." "I don't know, Commander." Sileth touched her communication device. "Bridge, do our orbital sensors show any ships leaving the station during the night?" "Negative, Commander. No departures recorded. No unknown vessels detected." Sileth walked to the captain's quarters. The bed was unmade. A book sat on the nightstand. A bookmark showing the reader was halfway through. She picked it up and stared at it. Where could an entire crew go without leaving any trace? At the Galactic Council headquarters on Axios Prime, panic was spreading. Council leader Zephon called an emergency meeting. Delegates arrived confused and frightened. The luminary leader's crystals were flashing red, a sign of deep concern. "I have received reports from 37 different civilizations," Zephon announced. "All report the same thing. Every human military member in their territory has vanished. Not just soldiers. Every human who had any connection to Earth's military or defense forces. Officers, technicians, pilots, engineers gone. This must be a coordinated withdrawal," suggested the Paxin delegate. Perhaps Earth is angry about yesterday's vote and has recalled all their people. That was my first thought as well, Zephon replied. But we have checked with traffic control stations across the galaxy. No mass movement of human ships occurred. In fact, no human military vessels have moved at all in the past 24 hours. The ships that were in dock are still in dock, but their crews are gone. Thrak rose from his seat. The Vrex general looked less confident than he had the day before. Council leader, this is a threat. Clearly, Earth has technology we do not understand. They can move their people without detection. What else can they do? Murmurs of agreement and fear rippled through the chamber. A small delegate from the Orion Alliance stood. We should demand an explanation from Earth immediately. We have tried, Zephon said. All official channels to Earth's government are responding normally. Trade ships are coming and going on schedule. Civilian communications are friendly. But every inquiry about their military gets the same response. Classified information. Classified? Thrak's voice rose. They make their entire military disappear and call it classified. This is an act of aggression. Is it, though? Asked a quiet voice. Everyone turned to look at the delegate from the Meridian Coalition, a peaceful race that had been allies with Earth for years. Has Earth threatened anyone? Have they made demands? Perhaps we are overreacting. Overreacting? A delegate from the Dravix Collective stood abruptly. An entire military force disappears overnight without any explanation. And you think we are overreacting? We have no idea where they went. We have no idea what technology allowed them to do this. For all we know, they could make our militaries disappear next. The chamber erupted in shouting. Some delegates demanded action against Earth. Others called for calm. A few were already proposing economic sanctions or even military blockades of human space. At the human embassy, Ryan Park sat in his office surrounded by angry aliens. 5 different civilizations had sent security officers to question him. They all wanted the same information he did not have. I am a civilian technician, Ryan said for the 10th time. I manage communication systems and file trade reports. I don't know anything about military operations. You must know something, insisted a Kelthian officer. You work in the embassy. The military staff kept to themselves, Ryan explained. They had their own section of the building. I never went there. None of the civilian staff did. And you didn't notice them leaving? I didn't notice anything unusual at all. I worked late last night finishing a report. I saw Lieutenant Kate Sullivan in the hallway around midnight. She said goodnight and went to her quarters. This morning her quarters are empty. Her door was not locked. Her clothes are still in the closet. But she is gone. The Kelthian officer leaned forward. Mr. Park, do you understand how serious this is? Your people have demonstrated technology that threatens every civilization in the Council. If Earth does not provide answers, there will be consequences. Ryan met his eyes. I understand you are worried. I am worried too. But threatening Earth will not get you answers. I suggest you ask nicely. We have asked nicely. Then perhaps you should wait patiently for a response. The officer left frustrated. Ryan sat alone in his office and wondered what was really happening. He had worked for the Earth government for 5 years. He knew there were classified projects. He knew Earth's military was more capable than it appeared. But this was beyond anything he had imagined. On the planet Earth, in a secure facility buried 2 miles under a mountain in Colorado, Helen Kim watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. She was 70 years old with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen much in her long career. She had been the director of Earth's Quantum Defense Initiative for 20 years. The Council is panicking, said her assistant, a young scientist named Lisa Grant. 30 different civilizations have sent urgent requests for information. The Vrex are threatening sanctions. The Kelthians have closed their borders to all human traffic. Let them panic, Helen said calmly. Let them close borders. Let them make threats. They need to understand that their idea of normal does not apply to us anymore. Dr. Kim, with respect, this could cause a war. Helen smiled. Lisa, there cannot be a war. Not the kind they understand. That is the whole point of what we are doing. Lisa looked at the screen showing locations of human defensive systems, or rather, showing where those systems had been before they shifted into quantum-locked states. I just hope we know what we are doing. We do, Helen assured her. We have been planning this moment for 5 years. Ever since the last time the Council denied our membership application, we tried doing things their way. We showed them our visible military and asked to be treated as equals. They laughed at us. So now we show them nothing and let them imagine everything. Psychological warfare? Education, Helen corrected. We are teaching them that power does not have to be visible to be real. That strength does not have to be displayed to be effective. They think of us as weak because we have small armies. We are going to teach them that we don't need armies at all. On the council station, Ambassador Jake Morrison finally received a message from Earth. It was short and simple. Proceed to Phase 2. Maintain silence, Jake smiled. He called Kate Sullivan to his office. When she arrived, he was not surprised to see her. She had not disappeared like the other. 3 days had passed since the disappearance. The Galactic Council had sent 47 urgent messages to Earth. They had received 47 polite responses that said absolutely nothing useful. Zephon stood in his private office, staring at the latest message from Earth's civilian government. His crystals flickered with frustration. The message thanked him for his concern, assured him that all humans were safe, and stated that military operations were classified. That was all. This is unacceptable, Zephon said to his aide. They cannot simply make an entire military vanish and refuse to explain. What can we do, Council Leader? His aide asked. We have no authority over Earth's internal operations. They are not full members. They are not bound by our military transparency agreements. Zephon realized the bitter irony. 3 days ago, the Council had denied Earth membership because their military seemed too weak. Now they were denying information because they were not members. Earth had trapped them in their own logic. The Council called another emergency session. This time, Ambassador Jake Morrison was not invited. He was summoned. The difference in wording was clear. The Council was done asking nicely. Jake arrived exactly on time, walking calmly into a chamber filled with hostile faces. He took his place in the center of the floor and waited. Zephon spoke first, his voice harder than before. Ambassador Morrison, the Galactic Council demands a full explanation. Where are your military forces? What technology allowed you to move them undetected? Why were we not informed of this capability? Jake clasped his hands behind his back. Council Leader. Those questions involve classified information about Earth's defensive capabilities. As Earth is not a full member of this council, we are under no obligation to share such information. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Thrax stood, his mandibles clicking rapidly. You dare use our own words against us? We denied you membership because you were weak. Now you prove you are dangerous. This is deception. No, Jake said calmly. This is exactly what we showed you. You asked about our military strength. We showed you 300 ships and 3 million soldiers. Those numbers were accurate. You chose to laugh at them. That was your decision, not our deception. But that was not your full strength. A Kelthian delegate shouted. You never asked if it was, Jake replied. You assumed it was. You assumed we thought like you. You assumed strength must be visible. Those were your assumptions, not our lies. Another delegate stood. This is word games. You have technology that threatens all of us. You can make your forces disappear and reappear anywhere. What stops you from using this against council members? Our word, Jake said simply. We have signed non-aggression treaties with every council member. We have never broken a treaty. We have never threatened any civilization. Our actions over 20 years of probationary membership show clearly that we are peaceful. Peaceful? Thrak laughed harshly. You demonstrate terrifying capabilities and call it peaceful? We have demonstrated the capability to move our own forces, Jake corrected. We have not threatened to move anyone else's forces. We have not made any demands. We have not changed our behavior toward any of you. The only thing that has changed is your perception of us. That is your problem, not ours. Zephon raised a crystal limb for silence. Ambassador, please understand our position. Every member of this council has spent thousands of years developing military technology. We understand ships, weapons, sensors, communications. What you have done should be impossible according to all known physics. How can we feel safe when one civilization has technology so far beyond our understanding? Jake's expression softened slightly. Council Leader, I understand your fear. But consider this. Earth has possessed this technology for many years. We had it before we applied for probationary membership. We had it during all 20 years of our probation. We had it yesterday when you denied our application. In all that time, have we ever used it to harm anyone? The chamber fell quiet. Delegates looked at each other. Finally, a small delegate from the Paxin Union spoke. That is true. Earth has always been peaceful. Peaceful while hiding weapons, Thrak muttered. That is not trust. That is strategy. Call it what you like, Jake said. The fact remains that Earth has never been a threat to the Council. We have only ever sought to join you as partners. Then prove it, Zephon said. Show us this technology. Explain how it works. Let our scientists examine it. If it is truly defensive and peaceful, you should have nothing to hide. Jake shook his head. Council leader, with respect, we do not owe you that. We have applied for membership in your council, not subordination to it. Free civilizations do not have to explain their defenses to others. Even if those defenses could be used as weapons, demanded another delegate. Any defense can be used as a weapon, Jake replied. Your shields can be rammed into other ships. Your medical technology can create plagues. Your communication systems can spread propaganda. Should you be required to give up all of these because they could theoretically be misused? The logic was sound, but it did not make the delegates feel better. They wanted answers. They wanted to understand. Most of all, they wanted to feel in control again. Zephon tried a different approach. Ambassador, perhaps we can reach a compromise. Earth wishes to join the Council. We wish to understand Earth's capabilities. What if we offer a new vote on your membership in exchange for limited information about your technology? Jake appeared to consider this. What kind of information? Basic principles. Not details that would compromise your security, but enough for us to understand what we are dealing with. Surely that is fair. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I will need to consult with my government. This is not a decision I can make alone. You have 24 hours, Zephon said. After that, the Council will be forced to take other actions. What actions? Jake asked calmly. Economic sanctions, travel restrictions, possibly a quarantine of human space until we are satisfied you are not a threat. Jake's eyes hardened. Council leader, I strongly advise against that course of action. Is that a threat, Ambassador? No. It is advice from someone who wants to avoid unnecessary conflict. Earth has been nothing but cooperative for 20 years. Punishing us for having good defenses is not logical or just. Zephon's crystals turned dark blue again. We do not wish to punish you. We wish to understand you. Surely you can see our perspective. I do see it, Jake said, and I will communicate your request to Earth. But I want to be clear. Earth will not be forced into anything. We will share information if and when we choose to do so. Threats will not speed that process. He bowed slightly and left the chamber. Kate was waiting for him in the corridor outside. That went well, she said sarcastically. Better than expected, actually, Jake replied. They are scared but still thinking logically. That is good. Fear without logic leads to violence. Fear with logic leads to negotiation. Do you think Earth will agree to share information? That is not my decision. But I suspect they will share something. Not the full truth, but enough to ease immediate tensions. The plan was never to keep this secret forever, just long enough for the Council to realize they need us more than we need them. Back at the human embassy, Ryan Park was dealing with his own problems. 3 civilizations had suspended trade agreements with Earth. 5 more were threatening to do the same. Human merchants were being harassed at ports. Some civilian humans were choosing to return home rather than deal with the growing hostility. Ryan sent daily reports to Earth, but the responses were frustratingly calm. Earth's government seemed completely unconcerned about the diplomatic crisis. Trade officials assured him that everything would be resolved soon. They provided no details about how. I don't understand, Ryan said to his assistant, a young woman named Amy Chen. Why is Earth so calm? We are on the verge of a complete breakdown in galactic relations. Amy shrugged. Maybe they know something we don't. Obviously, they know something we don't. The question is what and why won't they tell us? On Earth, in a coffee shop in Seattle, Lisa Grant met with her contact. His name was Vrel, a young Kelthian officer who had been assigned to Earth 3 years ago. They had become friends during his assignment, and Vrel had extended his stay because he genuinely liked humans. Now he looked worried. Lisa, you have to tell me something, Vrel said urgently. My superiors are talking about military action. Not against Earth directly, but they want to send a fleet to blockade your trade routes. They think pressure will force answers. Lisa sipped her coffee calmly. That would be a mistake. Then help me stop it. Give me something to tell them. Anything that will calm the situation. Lisa looked at her friend carefully. She liked Vrel. He was honest, kind, and truly wanted peace. But she had her orders. "I can tell you this," she said slowly. "Earth has not prepared for war. We have prepared for peace. When your superiors are ready to understand the difference, we will explain everything." "That is not helpful, Lisa. They need concrete information. What they need is patience. In a few days, something is going to happen that will make everything clear." "What is going to happen?" Lisa smiled sadly. "I can't tell you that. But I promise when it does happen, you will understand why Earth has been so calm. And you will understand." The first Corvin warships entered orbit around the planet Tellus Prime at dawn. The people below had no chance to prepare. Orbital defense platforms tried to fight back but were destroyed within minutes. The Corvin fleet was massive, advanced, and utterly ruthless. Commander Vornak of the Corvin Imperial Fleet watched his tactical display with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The second and third fleets were striking the other two target worlds simultaneously. By the time the Galactic Council could respond, the Corvins would control 3 resource-rich planets and be too entrenched to remove easily. "Begin landing operations," Vornak ordered. "Deploy ground forces to all major population centers. Standard protocol. Resistance will be crushed. Cooperation will be rewarded with survival." Dropships launched from the Corvin carriers heading toward the cities below. The Corvins were reptilian beings, large and heavily muscled. Their empire was built on conquest and strength. They viewed the Galactic Council as weak and soft. This attack would prove it. On Tellus Prime, in a city called Haven, people ran through the streets in panic. The local defense force, only a few thousand strong, tried to organize an evacuation. But where could millions of people go? The spaceports were already overwhelmed. In a shelter beneath the city, 50,000 refugees huddled together. Parents held children. The elderly sat quietly, having lived long enough to know when situations were hopeless. Above them, they could hear explosions as Corvin forces began their assault. A young Paxin named Mara held her infant son and whispered prayers to gods she half believed in. Next to her, an older Kelthian woman held her hand. They were strangers, but fear made everyone family. "The Council will send help," the Kelthian woman said, trying to sound confident. "The Council is weeks away," Mara replied. "We don't have weeks." Above the city, a Corvin battalion advanced toward the shelter. Their commander, a veteran named Crag, checked his tactical map. 50,000 life signs below ground. Easy targets once they breached the entrance. "Hold position," Crag ordered his troops. "Bring up the heavy equipment. We will blast through the entrance and force them to surrender." The Corvin soldiers stopped and waited. Engineers began setting up drilling equipment. It would take 20 minutes to break through the shelter's reinforced door. Then the slaughter would begin unless the refugees surrendered. But something strange happened. As the engineers worked, their equipment suddenly stopped functioning. Not broken, not damaged, just stopped. All electronics went dead. Communication devices, weapons, vehicles, even their armor's power systems. "What is happening?" Craig demanded, looking at his now useless datapad. His troops looked around, confused. Then a voice spoke. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It spoke in perfect Corvan language, calm and clear. "Attention, Corvan forces. You have 10 seconds to lay down your weapons and surrender. This is your only warning." Crag laughed. "Surrender to whom?" "Show yourself, coward." 5 seconds. Crag looked at his troops. They could still fight. They had claws, muscles, training. They did not need electronics to kill. Ignore the voice. Prepare to breach the shelter manually. Time is up. Every Corvan soldier on the planet fell unconscious at exactly the same moment. It happened so fast that they did not even have time to cry out. 1 second they were standing. The next second they were lying on the ground, breathing but deeply asleep. In orbit, Commander Vornak watched his tactical display with growing horror. Every ground unit on the planet showed as inactive. All communication with them had ceased. He tried to raise anyone on the surface. "Silence, what is happening?" he shouted. "Get me visual confirmation from the surface." His sensor officer worked frantically. "Sir, I'm detecting no weapons fire. No explosions. No energy signatures of any kind. Our forces just stopped reporting. Send drones. I want to see what is happening down there." Surveillance drones launched from the fleet. They descended toward the major cities where Corvan forces had landed. The images they sent back made no sense. Corvan soldiers lying in the streets unmoving. Vehicles stopped in mid-advance. Weapons scattered on the ground, but no enemies in sight. No signs of battle at all. Vornak stared at the images. What kind of weapon could do this? What technology could disable an entire army without leaving any trace of attack? Then his own ship's systems began to fail. Warning lights flashed across every console. Main power went offline. Backup power went offline. Weapon systems, shields, engines, life support, everything started shutting down one by one. "Sir, we are losing all systems," his engineer shouted. "Switch to emergency protocols," Vornak ordered. "Already tried. Nothing is responding. It is like the ship is ignoring all commands." Within 5 minutes, the entire Corvan fleet was dead in space. Not destroyed. Not damaged, just completely inert. 30 warships drifted in orbit, all power gone, all systems offline. The only thing still working was life support. But even that was clearly being allowed to function rather than functioning on its own. Inside his now dark bridge, Vornak sat in his command chair and felt something he had not felt in 20 years of military service. True fear. "We have been boarded," he said quietly. "Somehow someone has taken control of our entire fleet. But sir, there are no enemy ships nearby. Our sensors showed nothing before they went offline." "Then the sensors lied," Vornak replied. "Or we are facing something our sensors cannot detect." The same scene was happening at the other 2 target worlds. 3 Corvan fleets, 120 warships total, all disabled within minutes of beginning their attacks. Not a single shot had been fired at them. Not a single enemy soldier had been seen. They had simply been turned off like lights in a room. On the council station, Zephon received the reports with a mix of relief and confusion. The 3 planets had been saved. The Corvan forces were neutralized. But how? Who had done it? Then a message arrived on his private communication system. It was from Ambassador Jake Morrison. Just one line. "Perhaps we should talk now." Zephon stared at the message. Then he started laughing. His crystals flashed colors he had not displayed in centuries. The laugh was not humor. It was the sound of someone realizing they had been completely wrong about everything. On Tellus Prime, Mara emerged from the shelter with her son, along with the other 50,000 refugees. They walked cautiously into the streets, expecting to find destruction and death. Instead, they found sleeping Corvan soldiers. Local defense forces were already moving through the city, carefully collecting weapons and binding the unconscious Corvans. A human voice had spoken to them 2 hours earlier, telling them it was safe to come out, that the Corvans would sleep for another 6 hours and wake unharmed. "Who saved us?" Mara asked a defense officer. The officer, a young Kelthian male, shook his head in wonder. "The humans. Somehow the humans saved us, but there are no human ships here. We checked. No one detected any human forces in our system. I know, but we received a message from the Galactic Council. The humans did this. We don't know how. We don't know where they are, but they stopped the Corvans without firing a single shot." Kyle Barnes, the civilian pilot, was drinking coffee in his ship's cockpit when it happened. He had been making a routine cargo run to a mining station near the 3rd target world. His ship, a small freighter called Morning Star, was too far from the planet to be in danger but close enough to watch. He had seen the Corvan fleet arrive, had seen their warships take up attack positions, had started calculating his escape route if things got dangerous. Then, in less than 5 minutes, the entire Corvan fleet had just stopped moving. Kyle's co-pilot, a woman named Nina Hayes, worked the sensor controls. "I don't understand. One moment they were active. The next moment they are just drifting. All of them. Are they destroyed? No, I am reading life signs. They are alive, but their ships are completely dead. No power signatures at all." Kyle and Nina looked at each other. "Did you see any weapons fire?" Kyle asked. "Nothing. No energy beams, no missiles, no explosions. The Corvan fleet just stopped working." Nina pulled up news feeds from council networks. Reports were coming in from all 3 target worlds. The pattern was the same everywhere. Corvan forces disabled without combat. An impossible rescue. "The reports say it was Earth," Nina said quietly. "The council is saying Earth did this." Kyle looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, invisible and undetectable, something had reached out and turned off an entire invasion fleet. And that something was human. "I think we just learned something important about our own people," Kyle said. "I think we learned that when they said our military was small, they were telling a very specific kind of truth." In the days that followed, the galaxy tried to understand what had happened. Scientists examined the Corvin ships and found nothing wrong with them. All systems were intact. Once power was restored, everything worked perfectly. The ships had not been damaged. They had simply been turned off. The Corvin prisoners, once they woke, could provide no useful information. They remembered advancing, remembered hearing a warning voice, and then remembered waking up in captivity. Nothing in between. Medical scans showed they were completely healthy. Whatever had made them sleep had left no trace in their bodies. The Corvins as a civilization were deeply shaken. They were a military. 2 days after Earth's membership was approved, Ambassador Jake Morrison requested time to address the full Galactic Council. Zephon granted it immediately. Every delegate attended. The chamber was filled beyond capacity. Representatives from civilizations that did not even have voting rights showed up just to listen. Everyone wanted to hear what Earth would say next. Jake stood in the center of the floor with someone new beside him. An elderly woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She wore simple civilian clothes, not a uniform. She looked like someone's grandmother, not a military leader. Council members, Jake began. I would like to introduce Dr. Helen Kim. She is the director of Earth's Quantum Defense Initiative. She has led our research programs for the past 20 years. She is the architect of everything you witnessed during the Corvin crisis. With your permission, she would like to explain what humanity has actually built. Zephon gestured for Helen to proceed. The old woman smiled gently and activated a holographic display. The images that appeared were unlike anything the Council had seen before. They showed mathematical formulas, quantum equations, dimensional maps that hurt to look at. I'm going to try to explain this in simple terms, Helen began. Forgive me if I sometimes fail. What we have done is fundamentally difficult to describe using normal language. She waved her hand and the complex images simplified into something more recognizable, a map of the galaxy with glowing points of light scattered throughout. 200 years ago, humanity fought our last major war. It was terrible. Nuclear weapons destroyed entire cities. Billions died. When it ended, we made a decision as a species. We decided that we never wanted to fight that way again. But we also knew that the galaxy was dangerous. We had recently made contact with other civilizations and learned that war was common out here. So we asked ourselves a question. How do we protect ourselves without becoming what we feared? Helen paused, looking around the chamber. Most civilizations answered that question by building bigger weapons. Stronger shields, more soldiers. You entered an arms race with each other. Whoever had the biggest military felt safest. But we realized something. That kind of safety is temporary. Someone always builds a bigger weapon eventually, so we chose a different path. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed a single planet surrounded by layers of shimmering energy. We decided to focus on defense instead of offense, but not just better shields or stronger armor. We wanted something more fundamental. We wanted to make attack itself impossible, so we started studying the nature of reality. What is matter? What is energy? What are the rules that govern how things exist and interact? A Kelthian scientist in the audience raised a hand. Dr. Kim, all civilizations study these things. We understand physics. We understand quantum mechanics to some degree. What did humanity discover that we missed? Helen smiled. You did not miss anything. You just stopped asking questions at a certain point. When you understood enough physics to build good ships and weapons, you stopped. You moved on to engineering. We kept asking why. Why does matter behave this way? Why does energy transfer according to these rules? Why is space-time structured the way it is? She changed the display again. This time it showed something that looked like a fabric with threads running through it. We discovered that reality is not solid. It is more like a program running on a computer. There's code underneath everything. Mathematical code. Quantum code. The universe operates according to rules, and if you understand the rules well enough, you can work with them instead of against them. Thrax spoke up. This sounds like philosophy, not science. It starts as philosophy, Helen agreed. But it becomes science when you can test it. When you can prove it. When you can use it. Let me show you something. She pulled a small device from her pocket. It looked like a simple metal sphere, about the size of a marble. This is a quantum state generator. It creates a field that exists in multiple probability states simultaneously. Inside this field, matter can be in several places at once, or in no specific place at all. It depends on what we want it to do. She tossed the sphere into the air. It should have fallen back down. Instead, it vanished. Then it reappeared on the other side of the chamber. Then it was back in her hand, all in the space of 2 seconds. Gasps echoed through the room. "That is teleportation," said a delegate. "No," Helen corrected gently. "Teleportation means moving from point A to point B. This never moved at all. It simply existed at point A and point B simultaneously, and we chose which existence to observe. The sphere was always in both places. We just could not see both versions until we learned how to look." She let that sink in before continuing. "Now imagine we scale this technology up. Instead of a marble, we use it on a ship. The ship exists here and also there. We observe the version we need. To an outside observer, the ship disappeared from here and appeared there. But from the ship's perspective, it was always in both places. It just shifted which reality it was primarily experiencing." Zephon leaned forward. "This is how you moved your military forces? They are existing in multiple quantum states?" "Exactly," Helen confirmed. "Our soldiers, our ships, our defensive platforms, they are all in quantum-locked states. They exist across multiple dimensional spaces simultaneously. When you looked for our military 3 days ago, you looked in normal space. They were not there, so you thought they had disappeared. But they had not gone anywhere. They had simply shifted to a different layer of reality." A scientist from the Luminari stood. "Dr. Kim, this should require enormous amounts of energy. Keeping matter in quantum states is possible in laboratory conditions for tiny particles. But ships, people? That should be impossible." "It would be impossible if we tried to force it," Helen agreed. "But we do not force it. We persuade reality instead. Think of it this way. A river flows downhill because that is the natural path. You can try to push water uphill, which takes enormous energy. Or you can reshape the hill so downhill goes where you want. We reshaped the underlying structure of space-time in small ways. We created paths where our ships and soldiers want to exist in quantum states. Reality cooperates because we made it easier than not cooperating." The implications were staggering. If what Helen said was true, humanity had not just developed advanced technology. They had learned to rewrite the rules of physics itself. Not everywhere. Not permanently, but in small controlled ways that gave them abilities beyond anything the Council had imagined. "The Corvin crisis," Zephon said slowly. "You did not attack their ships. You changed the rules of how their ships could function." "Correct," Helen said. "We created a localized field where electrical systems preferred not to work. We gave electrons a quantum path that was easier than completing a circuit. All the Corvin technology simply chose the easier path. The ships were not damaged. They were just convinced that not working was more natural than working. And the soldiers who fell asleep? We adjusted the quantum states in their neural pathways, made sleeping a lower energy state than being awake. Their brains chose sleep because we made it the path of least resistance. It was completely harmless. They woke up perfectly healthy 6 hours later when we removed the field." Thrak stood, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "This is terrifying. You can simply decide that our weapons will not work? That our soldiers will fall asleep? What stops you from doing this to anyone you disagree with?" Helen's expression became very serious. "The same thing that has always stopped us. Our choice. Our values. Our decision about what kind of civilization we want to be." She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. "I want to be very clear about something. Earth has possessed this technology for 15 years. In that time, we have never used it aggressively. We have only used it to protect. Every single intervention we have made was defensive. We stopped attacks. We prevented invasions. We saved lives. We have never used our abilities to gain territory, to steal resources, or to force other civilizations to do what we want." "But you could," said a small voice from the back. It came from the Paxin delegate, the timid species that rarely spoke in council sessions. "Yes," Helen admitted. "We could. Just like any of you could use your weapons to attack peaceful neighbors instead of defending yourselves. The ability to do harm does not mean we will do harm. Every civilization has this choice. We chose protection over power." Jake stepped forward again. "This is why we applied for council membership. We wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. We wanted partners, not subjects. We could have revealed our capabilities years ago and demanded membership. We could have forced it, but that would make us tyrants, not partners. We waited. We proved ourselves through action, not through threats." Zephon was quiet for a long time. His crystals shifted through many colors, reflecting his complex thoughts. Finally, he spoke. Dr. Kim, you said you reshaped the structure of space-time in small ways. How small? What is the scope of your abilities? Helen hesitated. That is a complex question. Please answer it anyway. Helen took a deep breath. Our current network covers approximately 40% of the galaxy. We have quantum monitoring stations in most major star systems. We can detect threats, intervene in conflicts, and protect civilian populations across council space and beyond. Our range is limited only by the time it takes to install new stations.